Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. Florida State has not had a winning season since 2017. The Florida State Seminoles have not had a winning season since 2017, and that is unacceptable. That is absolutely unacceptable. The sad thing is, though, that streak might not end in 2021. The Seminoles are entering year 2 under Mike Norvell following a 3-6 2020 season. A season that for many was an absolute lost cause. First year head coach, they get rattled by COVID. Norvell misses a few games. They have quarterback uncertainty. It was a lost season for the Seminoles from the get-go. And they're hoping things will be a lot different in 2021. But the question is, when you look at their schedule and you look at what's coming back, will it be a better season for the Seminoles? You look at last year, guys. They went 3-6, 2-6 in conference play, only one loss, the season opener to Georgia Tech. Only one loss coming by one possession. Their 3 wins came against Jacksonville State, Duke, and a shocking upset victory over number 5 North Carolina. That's it. Take away that UNC game, they beat an FCS opponent and a very, very bad turnover-prone Duke team. Something has to change quick in Tallahassee. There is reason for excitement on the offensive side of the ball, though. 9 starters are back on offense for Mike Norvell, an offensive-minded coach, and the Seminoles. And it starts with their quarterback in Jordan Travis, a guy who had 1,056 yards last year, 6 touchdowns, just 6 interceptions, but also rushed for 559 yards and 7 touchdowns. He actually was the Seminoles' leading rusher in 2020. And remember, he didn't even start every game. Let's keep that in mind. Now again, Travis is not guaranteed the starting job. He was the guy that played the most last year, but there's this guy named McKenzie Milton that just transferred into Tallahassee. If you remember him, it's because he was absolutely phenomenal during his time at UCF. He suffered a gruesome, horrifying, terrible leg injury a few years ago and has made an absolutely remarkable recovery, very inspiring recovery, had an unbelievable spring down in Tallahassee, and is now fighting for the starting job at Florida State. I am here to say that whoever wins that starting job, whoever is under center for the Seminoles, Florida State, you're in good hands. Travis has that dual threat capability to make him dangerous on every single play. Milton has that a little bit as well, but has an unbelievable arm. The Seminoles offense will thrive, not just with one of them, but with Deshaun Corbin back at running back. And while the wide receiver core is relatively thin, they added a stud in Andrew Parchment from Kansas. And you might say, I didn't know Kansas produced those. They have a couple blue chip players every now and then. Parchment will fit in just fine with the Seminoles. When you look on defense, though, that's the problem. 5 starters are back on that side of the ball from a horrific defense from 2020. They allowed 36 points per game. They allowed 456.3 yards per game. They were 13th in the ACC in scoring. They were 13th in the ACC in rushing. They were 13th in the ACC in total defense. This defense is horrendous. Mike Norvell recognized that. He went out and got a bunch of transfers to try to bulk up that defense. Namely, Jermaine Johnson on the defensive line from Georgia, Jamie Robinson coming in to play nickelback from South Carolina. There are talented players on the defensive side of the ball, but is it enough to drastically change that defense in the span of just 1 year? That's the million-dollar question. Florida State, we know you're not going to contend for an ACC title in 2021. We know you're not going to contend for a playoff spot in 2021. It's a matter of, can you get a winning season? Can you even just get to a bowl game? That's what the Seminoles need. We take a look at their schedule, guys. The road to a bowl game, the road to a winning record, is a tough one, and it does not start pretty. They have a Sunday night matchup at home against Notre Dame, a Notre Dame team that made the college football playoff just last year. The good thing for Florida State is, 1, yes, they get this game at home, but 2, Notre Dame loses a lot from last year's squad, namely their star quarterback in Ian Book and basically everybody else on offense. That's the good thing going for Florida State. And then last year when they faced Notre Dame in South Bend, that was kind of Jordan Travis's coming out party. That was like his first legit game where he was like the full-time starter. And they dropped 26 points on the Fighting Irish. Only fell to them 42-26. He played extremely well in that game for what it was worth. This is a game where you could see Florida State catch Notre Dame off guard. You could see them struggling offensively. And Florida State's defense, they don't even have to be elite. They don't have to be as great as many would hope they would be, because Notre Dame's offense might not be up to par. They might be struggling a little bit. Florida State's defense plays like they did for about the first 2-3 quarters, like they did against North Carolina. They will win this game against Notre Dame. Florida State's defense plays like they did at times last year, especially in the UNC game. They will win this game against Notre Dame. The problem is Notre Dame's defense will once again be one of the best in the country. 6 returning starters on that side of the ball, one of the best defensive minds in the game, and Marcus Freeman. Phenomenal hire by Brian Kelly. And even though Notre Dame's going through so many changes, I believe the Fighting Irish have what it takes to come on the road and win this game. They will come on the road on a Sunday night in Week 1 and defeat the Seminoles in a game that I think could be closer than the 16 points that we saw in 2020. They beat Jacksonville State for the second straight year. They're 1-1. They dropped to 1-2. We think they're going to lose to Wake Forest. They lost to Wake Forest on the road in 2019. It would not surprise me to see them do it again. The Demon Deacons and Dave Clawson returned 19 starters from last year's squad. They returned everybody on the offensive side of the ball. Sam Hartman is back at quarterback. Jakari Roberson is back at wide receiver. And he's one of the best in the entire country. The defense is going to have to step up for Florida State if they want to have a chance in this game. And with the high-powered offense that Wake Forest has, along with home field advantage, I don't know if the Seminoles have what it takes to do that. So you factor in the returning talent, you factor in home field advantage, you factor in the struggling defense for FSU, and I've got Wake Forest winning the game at home. Seminoles dropped to 1-2. We believe they defeat Louisville, though. Now, many will say, how? How? They lost by 32 last year to the Cardinals. Florida State beat North Carolina, the signature huge upset victory that Mike Norvell needed, and then they follow that up with a 48-16 loss to Louisville. How do they beat them now? Well, first off, it's at home. And it's at home potentially with a sold-out crowd, with a full capacity stadium, which hopefully we will see for everybody across the entire country. So that's one big plus for a lot of these games, and factors that go into a lot of our predictions now. But you look at Louisville, guys. By this point, they will have played Ole Miss and UCF. They will have played 2 legit, tough offenses. Florida State could very well be the third. This will also be Louisville's first true road game. So at the end of September, they will be playing in their first true road game, which is pretty impressive. They can make it that long without doing that. When you look at Louisville, the one problem I have with them is not the defense, which is what it was a few years ago. It's their offense right now. They lose Javian Hawkins. They lose Tutu Atwell. They lose Des Fitzpatrick. And Mikael Cunningham's a solid quarterback, but can he find consistency? Can he hold on to the ball and not turn it over? Scott Satterfield has a lot of work to do there. He has a lot of work to do with the fan base after he mingled with South Carolina a little bit this last offseason. Things are looking really weird right now in Louisville. And I think Florida State, getting them at home, following a loss, what feels like a must-win game for the Seminoles this earlier on in the year, they get the job done. They beat the Cardinals, and they beat Syracuse as well. This, to me, is an absolute no-brainer. Syracuse might return 19 starters. Say what you want about returning talent. We harp on it a lot for a lot of teams. Syracuse isn't going to be one of them because Dino Babers hasn't really known what to do with the talent with the Orange. The offensive line is still going to struggle. They had one of the worst offenses in the ACC last year. They were 112th nationally when it came to defense. This is a team that I don't even know will take a step forward. This is a team that, despite returning 19 starters, could take a step back. Florida State will win this game convincingly at home. So just like that, a rough start. They're 3-2. But we do have them falling to 3-3 at North Carolina. I mean, this to me also feels like a no-brainer, very similar to the Syracuse game. UNC lost in Tallahassee 31-28 last year. North Carolina's defense is deeper and better than it was in 2020. Sam Howell returns for the Tar Heels. The offense will be clicking this far into the season, 6 games into the season, and they're certainly going to be out for revenge after losing that game in 2020. The game's in Chapel Hill. North Carolina will win. I think they could win convincingly. So right there, guys, they're 3-3. So one thing is good. Florida State has matched last year's win total. They're going into their bye week. They've matched last year's win total. And so obviously you could say there's some sort of improvement there. And I think they're a lot more competitive. I think they're competitive against Notre Dame. They're competitive against Wake Forest. The only game they might not be super competitive in is the one at UNC. They get their bye week and they play UMass. And if I'm Florida State, I'm actually disappointed that my bye week comes right before UMass. Like, could it not come before Clemson? Could it not come before Miami? Could it not come before anybody that's actually going to be a legitimate threat? Because we know UMass is not going to be that. They defeat UMass in convincing fashion, especially well-rested, 4-3. They then travel to Clemson. Very similar to the Syracuse game that was a win. Very similar to the UNC game that we considered a loss. This is a no-brainer loss for Florida State, just like basically every game for Clemson is a no-brainer win. Every opponent's game against Clemson is almost a no-brainer loss with the exception of Georgia this year. They're the best team in the ACC. They're one of the best teams in the country. And when you consider the drama that happened between these two programs last year, Clemson traveling down for the game, Florida State miraculously canceling the game at the last minute, Dabo Swinney is angry, and he's going to take out his frustration and anger on the Seminoles in Death Valley. A loss for Florida State at Clemson. The final 4 games, guys, get really, really tough. Florida State now has 4 wins. They need to win 2 of their final 4 to go bowling. 2 of them are at home. 2 of them are on the road. It's a matter of can they do it. They play North Carolina State. This is absolutely a winnable game at home for Florida State. They lost to the Wolfpack 38-22 last year. So, again, a 16-point loss, 2 possessions, really not too bad. North Carolina State is, many would say, is improving. Many people believe that this is the best Wolfpack squad that Dave Doeren has seen in his 9-year career in terms of depth and talent. They returned 17 starters. Devin Leary is back at quarterback. Their top 2 rushers are back. Their top 3 pass catchers are back. And the defense returns 9. They're looking like a very solid team, maybe the second best team in the ACC Atlantic. And when I look at this game, guys, I know how big of a win and how much of a must-win really this is for Florida State. I just don't think that Mike Norvell's squad can get it done despite it being at home. I believe NC State comes in this game with a lot of confidence. I think this is a bad spot for Florida State coming off a big Clemson hangover. I believe that for a lot of teams, whether it's Clemson, Bama, Ohio State, you come off a game against one of those teams where either you lose a close one or you get blown out, you're a bit hungover the next week. Florida State could be facing that on November 6th. And I believe NC State comes into Tallahassee and gets a win. A place that's tough to play, but as we've seen in recent years, is not an impossible place to win. They then play Miami at home on November 13th. Florida State lost to the Hurricanes 52-10 last year, and I do not see a 42-point swing coming from 2020 to 2021, especially when Miami returns, again, just about everybody from last year's squad, especially on the offensive side of the ball. A lot of these teams have legitimate offenses, guys. A lot of these teams are stacked offensively. That does not bode well for a Florida State defense that's dealing with a lot of new pieces and was one of the worst in the country last year. Miami wins convincingly again in Tallahassee. I'm not saying 52-10, but they're going to get the win over their in-state rival. Florida State has to win their final 2 games to go bowling. They have to win their final 2 games to go bowling. And I will tell you this, I believe they defeat Boston College on the road for that reason. I think Mike Norvell and the Seminoles realize this is a must-win game. If we want to have any shot of trying to go bowling, to salvage a winning season, we've got to beat Boston College. And one thing that you know about Boston College is while they're improving drastically, Jeff Hafley did a phenomenal job in 2020, they struggle with dual-threat quarterbacks. And I don't know who will be under center in this game for Florida State, whether it's Jordan Travis or McKenzie Milton. But if it's Jordan Travis, I expect Boston College's defense, one that was mediocre at best last year, to struggle mightily despite the game being at home for the Eagles. Florida State has Boston College's numbers. In recent years, we have seen better BC teams fall to inferior Florida State teams, whether it's in Tallahassee or on Chestnut Hill. Boston College drops this game. It's a surprise to many. Florida State has something to play for in the season finale when they travel to the Swamp to take on Florida. But their season comes to an end when they take on the Gators, guys. You look at Florida State. They've lost the last 2 to the Gators by a combined score of 81-31. They're going to get back to the point where they can beat Florida. The game was in Tallahassee. I might say it might be closer. But by this point, Emory Jones is going to be playing very well at quarterback for Dan Mullen and the Gators. Their defense should be a lot better than it was in 2020. It's in the Swamp. I don't see how Florida State can go in there and pull off this upset, even though they have everything in the world to play for. Win this, you're going bowling. I just don't see the Gators letting this one by them, especially on their home turf. And having said that, Florida State will conclude their 2021 season with a 5-7 record. They're going to fall just short of making the postseason. And while that's going to be a major disappointment, while everybody's going to be calling for Mike Norvell's head, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. You improved from last year. You won 1, 2, 3 conference games. That's one more than you won last year. You can see the improvement is there for the Seminoles. You'll see a lot more fight. You're going to see a lot more wins from Florida State in 2021. But the ultimate goal of getting back to the winning records, getting back to the postseason consistently, I still think they're at least one more year away from that. So Seminole fans, be patient. My man Mike Myrick, no hard feelings, brother. No hard feelings at all. Got him going 5-7. I obviously would love to see him do better. But I still think they're at least one more year away from getting to that point. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at The Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our predictions over the course of these next few months. Make sure to check out everything down in the description as well, guys. We have so much exclusive content for you, including our brand new expert pick packages over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Not only will you get some of the best spread picks in the entire country for one of the lowest prices in the entire country, but we're now offering out our NFL picks on our site as well. So do not miss out on that. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.